We'll get started now. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Live from Dallas, Texas, I'm Ranu Gupta, Managing Partner of Performance Leverage, Executive Coach and Leadership Advisor. I work with leaders, organizations, and teams to create an exciting vision of their future and then leverage their full human potential to manifest it. I'm also the president of the PNG Alumni Network of the DFW Texas chapter. Welcome to this virtual session on the future of talent and global emerging trends in a post-pandemic world, brought to you as a collaboration between the PNG Alumni Network DFW chapter and the Cornerstone International Group, a global leadership and talent solutions firm with offices in 65 major cities and ranked by Forbes as among the best firms in executive search. So it is a remarkable, unprecedented world we live in today. A volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, a VUCA world. Times of disruption like these create some of the greatest opportunities. Old industries collapse and new ones rise from the ashes. So before we dive into the panel discussion, I would like you all to take a moment to reflect on your own personal VUCA moment. So think of one way this pandemic has changed your life for the better. One thing that you think you can do differently even when life gets back to normal. I'd like you to reflect on that for a few seconds, please. So now finally, what I'd like you to do is write down in the chat or even on a piece of paper, this is for your own personal reflection, what this pandemic has meant to you in 1 to 6 words, and then hold that thought as you go through this session. My own personal VUCA moment has been about spending quality time with my teenage daughter. Given my work as a consultant and advisor, I travel a lot, but the pandemic has given me the opportunity to really spend more time getting to know her as a beautiful, intelligent human being versus just my daughter, who I of course adore, while going on hikes, RV trips, and picnics in the countryside. So next on, our panel discussion today is going to be in 3 parts. Each part is going to be led by 3 expert moderators, starting with me. In part 1, I will ask our panelists about what macro workforce and leadership trends they're observing as the pandemic has evolved. What do they see as the future of work? In part 2, Graciela, a former accomplished CEO and brand builder, also ex-PNG, who now has become one of the very few Latina public company board directors, will ask our distinguished panelists about how to navigate the changing corporate landscape with mobility and reskilling opportunities and the challenges that work from home has created for leaders as well as job seekers, and in particular, how it has affected women in the workforce. In part 3, which is our finale, Roberto, an accomplished business globalization leader and marketer, also ex-PNG, with a successful pan-regional career, will ask the all-important question: what will it take to succeed in this new landscape? What skills are going to be most critical? And what tangible, actionable steps our audience can take to prepare and stay ahead of the curve? So now to introduce our distinguished panelists. Simon Wan has had a distinguished career as a general manager at Philips Lighting and Nestle, and has led the Cornerstone International Group into a leading leadership and executive search firm. As the chief executive of Cornerstone International Group worldwide, he has, over the past decade, taken it from strength to strength as a global human capital management company, winning several industry accolades. Simon combines his practical business approach to help companies in their executive needs, as well as on ways to capitalize on their strengths in leadership. Simon is a member of the International Coach Federation and a certified NLP coach, and holds an MBA from the University of Alberta, Canada. Laurie, who's our other panelist, is a managing director and global executive coaching chair at the Cornerstone International Group. She is an exceptional business leader with extensive global experience in Asia who has successfully coached and guided hundreds of global executives on the path to professional and personal success. She is brilliant at combining her deep insight and leadership development with her expertise in cross-cultural management and helping executives deftly navigate a complex global business environments. So I'm going to kick us off on our panel conversation right now with my first question directed to Simon. So Simon is a successful CEO of a global executive search firm and leadership company based in Shanghai, China. What salient macro trends are you observing? What industries are growing and which ones are shrinking?
Thank you, Ranu. Thank you, Ranu. If I put it quite in a summary on what are the macro trends, I would like to put it into two dimensions. One is on the executives level, and on the other level is really the global worldwide level. On the personal executive level, I see that there are many angry executives because they've been, many has lost their job or being furloughed or they are being surprised when their company make decisions that affect their career. So if you look at the macro trend on the executive talent world, there are many angry people out there. Secondly is on the world side, and I think overall in the last 8 to 9 months, most of the countries actually they are in a catch-up mode because basically most countries, including Western, Eastern, or anywhere, they are caught off guard. So all the countries are doing catch-up works and try to really solve or reduce the impact of pandemic. So, and indeed, most of the company, either you're a Fortune 500 or small or family business, most companies are trying to survive. And because this last few months has been a various ways of survival. So this is to me what I see as a macro trend today. Huh?
And when this, what you're seeing is, so it's really about survival for executives and companies alike. Laurie, what are your thoughts? What are you observing?
Well, we have, coaches globally. We have 100 coaches. They coach in 20 languages. And, just doing a review with many of them, there is a recurring theme. We are placing a tremendous amount of responsibility on our lower management, the individuals who are interfacing with our populations that are our companies. And it's really showing how ill-prepared they are, because we're asking them as individuals to adjust to what's happening to them as a person, as a father, as a mother. And at the same time, they have individuals working for them. They're looking to support them as they adjust to change. But now we're saying, half of your life, you must be addressing the social needs of these people. How are they all doing? What is their mental health? What's their physical situation? What do they need to work from home or whatever we're asking of them? And that is a large vulnerability because we don't have our most senior leaders talking to the greater portion of the people that work in our companies.
All right, thank you. That's an interesting insight, Laurie. So you're saying that the current demand on lower management to really step up to the plate, and not only on the home front but on the work front, has been taxing. And so are senior leaders investing the time to coach, managers at all levels in the organization? Are you seeing any trends in those direction?
Clearly, there's been a democratization of coaching. Initially it was prescriptive and basically for the C-suite, but that's changing. And the reality is that the people at the mid-level are on catch-up. And it's a steep learning curve for many, you know. So we're putting huge demands on them. And at the same time, we have to remember that they're coping also. So it's a demand of humanity. It's a demand of empathy, a demand of understanding. And so these are times that are stretching our leaders, you know.
Yeah, it is certainly a trying time. And as we know, this is what either brings out the best in our leaders or the worst, right? So it's a true test of who comes out on the other side. And it's a true test of survival, right? On a corporate scale. Do you have any comments, Simon, before I move us to ask you our next question?
One of the things that we see is most companies do a quick and fast way to manage their cost structure. Sometimes they make decisions on the whole divisions or one layer of the whole hierarchy. So that's why when Laurie described the middle managers being pushed up one level up because of either the management structure has changed and also the way of working has changed, because a lot of companies are making cost decisions quite drastically, and the other hand, they talk to us because they want us to help their middle managers to really stand up to the challenge. And there's a lot of requirement today that they want coaching for performance and how to be the first time leader, how can they do it, that kind of thing. And so.
Right.
You know, Ranu, if you'll permit me, we have we have many coaches that are all responding online and agreeing that their work is focusing now on emerging leaders and mid-level leaders. So it's interesting. We have someone from Toronto, some in New York, and they're all giving us their comments as we speak. So we're getting the coaches' feedback as we're together. It's great.
Yeah, I see those popping up at the bottom of the screen, and that's wonderful. That's a common trend that we're observing everywhere, right? So. It'll be interesting how it all pans out. So thank you, Simon and Laurie, for your insights there. I'm going to move us to our next question, right? So that was kind of at 100,000 feet level. So we're going to step down to about 80,000 now. So how are some, I know you talked to some of it, but I want you to talk a little more specifically about any specific things that you're seeing on how companies are adapting and executives are adapting to this new normal. What are maybe some of the things you all are doing within your company and executives yourself in adapting to this new normal, and when it comes to looking and growing and retaining talent? What disruptions are you seeing? Are there any innovative practice or trends you have observed? And what do you see as the future of work? So yeah, that's a big question for the two of you. Who would like to go first? Simon?
Yes, on the business of management consulting, actually the cost is time, and the time is a rare commodity. It's also a very expensive commodity. What we do is our two key businesses in coaching and in executive search. So the demand for executive search is lower in the last 7 months because of a lot of company on a survival mode. But then the coaching side actually pick up quite a bit. So on the management decision that we need to take is we have to allocate resource to really try to help the pain points of the companies, which they want us to help their employees as well as their middle level and young leaders. So this is the thing that we see, that we have to allocate resource to solve the pain points of the clients. So, Laurie?
Well, you know, one of the things that we're missing is when you have your team around you, you have their body language, you can see how people are doing sometimes, and that's a gap, you know. But our team, the team that I work with, are all over the world and have always been all over the world. I think the thing that is different right now is that, you know, the employee's well-being is not nice to have. It is central and critical to my day and to the leaders that I'm coaching. And checking in with people once a week probably is not sufficient anymore, you know, and having meetings with a tight timeline where it's going to end and here's the agenda, you know, that doesn't happen. You know, I believe you must be open and available. And part of that is just saying, you know, what would you like to speak to me about? How are you doing? How's your mom? And did the kids go back to school? And how are you feeling yourself? And all of those questions that you would ask your family, you know, because they are your family. They are your family. I've worked in Cornerstone for, I hate to say how many years, and this is my family too. And I'm concerned about them no matter where they're located. So this is a huge demand on our time, and one we must invest in.
Right, so Simon checking in with you on how you are doing daily?
Oh yeah. we have, since I started working for Simon many years ago, we're still on old school. We're still on Skype. And when I'm working, I open up my Skype. When he's working, he opens up a Skype. We're about 15 hours difference on time zones, but we always overlap. And I think it's just knowing that the person is available, you know?
Well, that's a very, very important point. So it's interesting, right? So many of us, at least personally, I have, and I'm sure you as a global company, used to working with people being in multiple locations, working across time zones and virtually. But, you know, one of the things I've observed here in Dallas, Texas, which has a lot of oil and gas companies, which are very traditional in-office suit and tie culture, those are now adapting and getting used to work from home. And it's also interesting that you mentioned that, especially in these current times, it's become even more important to personally check in, right? Not just about, hey, how's work going, but how are things at home? So that's an interesting transition, especially for what we call the more individualistic cultures, right? So in Latin cultures and Indian culture that I grew up, it was very common. And it's very normal for people to first connect at a personal level, and in Asia, as Simon knows, in China, right? So you have to first connect at a personal level before you do business. But it's interesting that you're observing that even in North America, there's a trend towards a more informal check-in, especially brought on with the pandemic and the adversity we all share, right? So that's great. So I'm gonna segue us into, you know, just for a few minutes, I'd like to, before I switch gears to Graciela, one of the questions I wanted to ask as a final in this final question in my section is, so we now live in a time, Simon, Laurie, where we have seen significant market disruption, right? With the 2008 crisis, which destroyed boomer nest eggs, right? Forcing them to extend retirements. Then we had a whole bunch of millennials who ended up just living with their parents and never left home, right? Never launched, if you will. And then, so now we have this next disruption with this pandemic. How is this going to affect the workforce demographic, the job market, and the competition for jobs? What do you, when you look at your crystal ball and you do business planning, what are you seeing?
What I see are in two areas. One is because of technology, because of the pandemic, executives should realize that normally you don't retire at an age that you want anymore. And if anything that you should be prepared for is, it is normal nowadays is to be in different industries before you retire. So you might be in life science, or you might be in FMCG or consumer, but one day you might be in consulting, one day you could be in digital marketing, because try to be on a continuous learning mode. Would be my recommendation. The second thing is, when you look at China every year has 8.7 million college graduates every year. And it's a very competitive world, even for new graduates today. So I won't say that the young people are easier to get on this kind of pandemic. Actually, they are also very stressful. It's very difficult to find their first job. So this is something that I see are the two macro reality today around the world. Laurie?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I've had the opportunity of living in Beijing for a few years, and just seeing the difference, the way children are brought up, you know, the demands on them for excellence. And many students, you know, they go to school on Saturdays and think nothing of it, and they're taking extra music lessons and advanced math. And, you know, we have a softer approach in many other countries. One of the things I wanted to talk about is that it's very easy too at this time to make assumptions about what's happening. You know, in Vancouver, we saw the occupancy rate of you know, a lot of our business towers emptying, and we assumed that people were all moving to, you know, less expensive, larger properties so that they could have their offices at home. And now we see the occupancy rate is getting very close to under 5% and going, could actually almost be completely filled, every space. And that's because we're a high tech center, we're a technology center. And we expect 85,000 new jobs to be created in the next few years. So now all of that space is being filled and all of those people are working downtown again. So it's very easy to say this is what's happening, but there are waves left and right that are facing us, you know? And so there are opportunities in that instability, and the young people, many young people who are much more open to changing careers, as Simon has said, and for many of us who are older, we are adapting because we must, you know?
Right, so continuous learning, adaptability is the theme, and it's interesting, right? So with this trend from that, you're observing that you know, as offices get empty, you're also seeing new jobs being created in Vancouver. So that's an interesting trend to observe, and a positive one. So on that note, I'm going to segue to my colleague Graciela, who's going to talk to you more about this. So over to you, Graciela.
Thank you, Ranu. And thank you for inviting me to moderate the panel. These topics are very timely and very important. So my first question is about reskilling and workforce mobility. You both, Laurie and Simon, you have touched on the topic already several times. I serve in the board of a company that does office and school supplies. So you can imagine that we're figuring out what's going to happen with work. Are kids ever going to go back to school? And that's having a huge impact. Sales are going down. This is one of those companies that are in a hard-hit industry. And there's been a lot of cuts in terms of personnel, of course, trying to lower the cost. And reskilling is becoming a big deal. We're seeing our sales shift from brick and mortar retailers to Amazon. I think a lot of companies are seeing Amazon grow disproportionately, and selling to Amazon or other e-retailers in e-commerce and doing marketing digitally. Those are very new skills, and some persons in the companies may have other skills that are more old school skills. So I'm interested in your take about reskilling, or whether companies will be bringing in new people. At the same time, we have the other trend that we have been talking about, mobility of the workforce. I was just this morning in a conference watching a panel with a Facebook director, and she was talking about how Facebook used to have a very small talent pool from which to get, engineers. And now, all of a sudden, with remote work, they can access a global talent pool that goes beyond the US, but it's everywhere. So how as executives, how can executives not be surprised? Simon, you talk about being surprised. So what can I do if I'm an executive now to look at these two sides of the story, to think about what risks are there out there for me? What opportunities, what kind of skills is it important to work on? And how can we really be prepared to avoid being surprised, as you said?
Thank you, Graciela. My observation are in two areas. First is a lot of the jobs are more open on specifically technical and project-based jobs that can be done remotely. There are a lot more of that kind of assignments because in most of the businesses that are related to a consumer, FMCG, or even healthcare, there's a very significant trend to move it from offline to online and even on so-called live streaming by a key opinion leader, the KOL. So the whole marketing, project management, and the distributions with Amazon or Tmall in China are becoming a way of working, which are not that significant 18 months ago. So there's a complete change of O to O and O on offline to online and live streaming, and together with distribution partners of Amazon and Tmall and the others. So the market has changed and they are being done remotely, can be done remotely. The second thing that we see is because of not able to work on site, many companies are hiring executives on a project base, or we call it interims. They would come and work for 3 months, 5 months, and 6 months. And if it works, then they'll continue to hire them and change them to the full-time. So there's a change of, it's a two-step approach in executives' jobs, rather than just a simple one-step approach today. It's going to be what would happen in the next few months. Laurie, your points?
Yeah, I think one of the things that has become a huge responsibility for very senior leaders is who they are as a leader. You know, fact is, right now you can't fake it. You really cannot fake it. We have huge groups meeting on all various, media that's available, and people are looking at those leaders. They're listening to them. Their message, does it align with what they do? The decisions that they're making? Is this just another pitch? And so the risk of the population in a company not believing that leader, not wanting to follow that leader is huge. And the difference is that this younger generation have not invested 15 years in that organization. They can walk. They don't feel the emotional attachment. So we never thought that a leader's messaging would be so powerful, but it is. And we've seen that pre-pandemic. You know, some of the amazing women who have led the Pepsi and some of those big companies, and how they drove the idea of purpose and pulled people back into those companies. And this is an important part of the world right now. And really, are these people prepared for it? And this is why there's a tremendous amount of coaching, laser coaching in communication for executive leaders before they go out there and speak, preparing them and having them aware of the risk. It's a changing world.
So let me take that, Laurie, to talk a little bit about working from home, as you're saying, and the impact of leaders. Two areas that I'm interested in. So how do you bring people on board? I just joined the board of another company, and the whole process was virtual. I mean, I met one of the 10 people in the board for 10 minutes in a networking event. And from there, all the process was virtual. We had all the interviews. We have had board meetings. And it's hard when you're not part of the group, you know, to start becoming part of that group and really feeling that you belong. You talk about how the leaders are important in that. So I'm interested in your advice on that area, and also what it refers to keeping the corporate culture, right? Some people say we're going to continue to work remote forever. No, that the Twitter CEO said that. Other companies are saying, no way, we have a culture here. You talked about how the leaders play a role. So I'm interested in understanding in your perspective regarding those two aspects. How can you onboard people that are coming from, have not built relationships pre-pandemic? And how do you preserve the corporate culture?
Well, I think there's a huge investment of time. You know, right now I'm coaching someone who is coming to Vancouver and he's living in Helsinki. He has a brand new baby and a new family. And so, you know, I speak to him every day, you know, a little at a time, get to know me, get to trust me. And then I connect him with the leaders here, get him to be known, meeting not just one or two people. We're on our 10th interview. So he really gets to meet people and he hears whether the story is consistent. Do the directors say the same things as the VPs? The managers that that are going to be his peers, do they believe what they're hearing? You know, this is all important. The other thing is that I joined a board myself during this time, and I'm now on the board of ICF, the International Coaching Federation. And, you know, I said to them, we don't meet enough. You know, he said, Laurie, we only meet every two and a half months. It's okay. And I said, wow, it's not enough for me. You know, I don't know any of you. I just moved here from Beijing, you know, a couple of years ago. You all know each other. And so they laughed and we agreed, you know, we're a coaching organization. How did we not clue into this? So just making more time to meet informally. And our board meetings are very long. We spend the first hour just everybody saying, how are you and what's going on, you know? So little adapting, personal adapting, and also employees are reaching out to their bosses, you know, how are you doing? You know, are you okay? An awful lot going on. I've seen the agenda go by. There's about 5 meetings this week, you know, and is there anything I can do to help you? So I think we're drawing on humanity and we're drawing on who we are. We need to draw on who we are, not just our intellect, but who we are as people and our caring, our humanity. They will serve us well now.
Thank you, Laurie. I have personally found that scheduling time just for the things that would have happened naturally in the pre-pandemic times, just for coffee, right? So I have had virtual coffees where they ask me, what is the agenda? And I'm like, no, there's no agenda. I just want to get to know you, talk about whatever you want. And that's how I believe you build and you keep relationships. But Simon, I'm interested in your views regarding preserving the culture, right? We know that high performance organizations have strong cultures. And as you bring in new people, as you want to preserve that in these times, how do you do that?
Well, I think the most important thing to preserve the culture is the job of the CEO or the so-called BU head, and to really has to be really up in the front and really try to schedule more regular meetings as a group, even it's virtually. At Cornerstone, basically, we have global board meetings, and also in China, we have one large meeting a week for every consultant to take part. It's very important to be visible and helping each one to understand the situations. And in the time of pandemic, especially on the virtual and a remote working situation, my experience is you have to go into much better detail in the discussion. Otherwise, it's become a hello meeting. It's not a business meeting. But on the board level, let's say on the Cornerstone, we have a global board meeting. Half of our time is on relations building, because the board is really important to build relations and understand some of the concern each of the board member has. But in a local business meeting, it's very different. I think the objective is different also. Laurie, you have any additional points?
You know, just on that theme, Simon, as an organization, we try to meet all of us together, you know, once a year. And what we miss is all the time in between, sitting down with people from other countries that you're going to be working with or have worked with, or maybe there was some misunderstanding, and getting things sorted. that we miss, you know. But, you know, at the same time, we are clustering. And in companies, they're asking us to, you know, people who have signed contracts with us have come back and said, can we convert these individual one-on-one coaching to maybe team coaching or maybe group coaching? We're so isolated. We spend so much time on our own. We would love the coach to join us. And as a team, can we share what's going on, share ideas? I no longer want to be coached one-on-one, maybe part of the time, but I hunger for the opinions of others, and I hunger to be heard, you know. So those are some of the things we're seeing. A big move towards team coaching and group coaching, especially at the mid and lower levels.
Thank you, Laurie. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit to talk about how the whole pandemic situation has had a disproportionate impact on women. Yes. I spent a lot of time in the past working on efforts to drive gender diversity in companies. And consistently, we always found that women were asking for flexibility and remote working as one of the enablers for them to do better in their careers. You would think that now, when the remote working has become fully accepted as effective and everybody's doing it, that women would be thriving. But at the same time, we know that with all these lockdowns and with all the fact that kids are not going to school, they may be at home, and there's a lot of additional demands in terms of caretaking, in terms of domestic work. And unfortunately, that's work that usually is not being divided equally at home, and women are taking disproportionate part of that. And I was hearing a conference with McKinsey, and they were saying that based on recent research they conducted, 1 in 4 women are considering leaving the workforce or downshifting their careers because of this burnout, that they feel they are overwhelmed. So my question to you is, how can companies better monitor the morale and strengthen the retention of the female talent? And how can women cope? I mean, what would you recommend? Either of you, Simon, if you want to start first, and then we'll go.
Well, I think there are many studies on this subject, and this is a subject that's still need to do a lot of work in even in US or China or even in Europe. But in a Harvard Business Review that I saw, actually about 80% of employees say that their organization doesn't support diversity. They might have it in their mission statement, but actually they don't feel that the company really worked hard enough for that. But at the same time, there's another McKinsey study that I saw is company that actually has a more diverse board and more diverse kind of approach in business management are 35% more likely to experience higher returns. So those are some report that we are seeing. The world is taking notice now, and definitely there's still a long way to go. But I think it's already a big improvement so far. But the work from home situation definitely is an issue that each business is different, because like in the business of management consulting, especially in executive search, about 70% of our staff are women. And so we try to allow more flexibilities, and different industry is different. So for our business in management consulting, I think diversity is quite normal for us. So Laurie, your point?
Yeah, I would say that there's a huge advantage to organizations that have a diverse leadership, you know, right at the beginning. But it has always been an unfair situation, and it has always been a burden of few. And I think the challenge is, I mean, I have one of the leaders that I coach. I was telling Simon, you know, I'm calling him in South America, and he's in a penthouse, you know, a condo, and his kids are playing in the pool outside as I'm coaching him, and I have to really hold it together, because he's complaining about his pandemic experience and that he can't move to Canada, and and I have to I have to hold it together, because on the other side of my life, I'm coaching new Canadians. Part of the mentoring that I do, I have a group of Brazilian young women that are here, and how are they adapting? They're at the bottom end of the scale, you know, and they are at a huge disadvantage, and they're at home, and they have children. I mean, I have meetings with the head of R&D of a huge organization, and you know, it was very cute at the beginning when we had you know, kids bursting in on a television interview or something. Oh, isn't that adorable, you know? But month 3, and you're running an R&D group, and your kids are all over you, and the responsibilities are huge. I mean, this is phenomenal stress, and this is partly why I keep going back to the point of the people that are interfacing with those. When we look at how we're going to change our companies to address the needs that are changing of our clients, and we have to look at, well, how is this work going to be done? What tasks are going to go home? Not what jobs are going to go home, what tasks are going to go home? And how do we support those that are going to deliver on these incredible tasks that we ask of them? What do they need? And if we don't ask that question, I mean, this is a failure. This is a huge failure and a huge risk. And often it's a silent group that pay the price. It's not acceptable. And I think young people are really standing up and saying, we don't want to work for companies that are like this. There are others. We're going to seek them out, and we're going to look not only in our own country, we're going to look right around the world, and we're going to move to them. So this is a risk. Talent is a risk right now.
Thank you, Lauren. Let me pass it on to Roberto.
Thank you so much. Well, there has been a very insightful discussion, and you know, we're having this great opportunity to understand all these mega trends. Angry executives, there is a technology-centered world right now. The emerging leaders taking possession for all the challenges, the disconnection between the purpose and the personal side of the business. Because we are interconnected through screens, but we are losing this personal touch. The company surviving in surviving mode and trying to adapt to this very disruptive normal, and the needs to proactively adjust to remote working environments and dynamics. And even for us as executives, trying to redefine ourselves, trying to nurture additional skills, look at new practices and even new industries. As Simon mentioned, in our career, but in the past we used to have like a long career in one industry. For example, fast-moving consumer goods. Now you can go from fast-moving consumer goods to biotechnology to consulting to many different things, and you have to be prepared. Now we are in a very highly connected world, pursuing all frontiers, and where inclusion and diversity are progressively building a stronger awareness worldwide. So my questions now are more trying to get the pragmatic recommendations. So how we have more than 2,000 people that is listen to this, and they need to get some nuggets, practical nuggets to execute. So in a context of these organizational structures becoming more decentralized, and now that working from home has been proven efficient, highly productive, and very cost effective, okay? With the world changing constantly, the organization needs to evolve and reevaluate the human resources strategies and look of ways so they can deploy the talent for the business success. So my question is, what is your recommendation, for the companies and the leaders to really assessing, using like a methodology, assessing the significance of mobility to employees, and then to move forward toward a strategy that focus on harness this talent? My question goes to Simon as well as to Laurie.
Thank you, Roberto. I think when you look at the organization developments or strategy history in the business world, is the HR, the company, normally the way of working has been defined by HR. But but this is in the last 8 months. Now the CEO has to take over, and based on the harnessing of ability of trust to the staff. Trusting is very important. If you hire the right person, you can trust the right person. If you don't have the right person, even though they come to work every day, there's no result. So, so it's important to hire the right person to your team. At the same time, the second thing that I said is you have to be very sure they understand what to do, what is their job to do, even though they are working from home or in a mobility situation. And then there has to process and way to check whether they are executing well on assignments that they are being asked to do, no matter where they sit. So so this is the, if you ask on one nugget, I would say this: it has to focus on results and focus on actions, because it has to be with focusing in results, and the CEO has to be more hands-on and focus on actions also. Thank you. Laurie?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, we used to have a toolbox, and we hired for people who had those tools and could pull upon them. And I think that we're starting to change what that toolbox looks like, you know. Now we're including, advanced cognitive skills, you know, planning, problem solving, decision making, adaptability, resilience, empathy. And empathy is very, very key. One of my clients said to me, we have coaches in their company, and they said to me, you know, one of the things with Cornerstone is that you know, all of the people that you bring to us are normal. I said, what are you talking about? I hope they're all normal. She said, you know, what I mean by that is that they're good people, you know, they're good people. We can talk to them. They work hard. They communicate. Like, what are you screening for? You know, how is it that you're screening these people? And I think it's because I'm going to link it back to what you said, Simon. You know, we get to know these people. What are they like in lots of different situations? Can we trust them? Do they speak honestly? Are they open? Are they interested in other things besides themselves and other ideas? And you know, when you ask someone, what do you think is happening in the world, in your industry? And they haven't a clue, you know? I mean, there are all different ways we can work that toolbox, you know, so that the people that come in and those that we develop, we're developing people because we know that they have at least a solid foundation in some of the basic human skills, and we can give them coaching, we can give them training, and they will be our leaders of tomorrow, you know.
That's a great context. I appreciate it very much. You know, my second question goes, I want to build on the inclusion and mobility in parallel. Not only inclusion about gender inclusion, but inclusion including also diversity. Also, the competition right now to attract and retain and foster talent has been more tougher for leaders and organizations. You know, we are trying to find our unicorns, the people that we can trust, the people that we can nurture to be the next leaders. So in the context of mobile workforces, multiple generations with different values and ideas, because now we are working with Generation C, Generation Y, millennials, and all kinds of generations. And a marketplace competition from around the world. This is pushing all the companies to embrace, you know, the diversity. And not only for the customers, as it happens with all the multinational corporations, we need to have like a diversity evaluation when we hire a supplier, but as well as the employees. So how coaching and mentorship practices can create a diverse and inclusive workplace in this new normal, and most important in going into the specifics of a recommendation, what is the initial action that we must take if we are not doing that already? For sure, from all these 2,000 people that we are here listening to the panel, maybe many of the companies doesn't have the inclusion subject in the strategy. So what is the first step, and what is your recommendation on the next steps or the process to follow? Simon and Laurie.
You go first,
Laurie,
Simon.
But Roberto, what would you do in this kind of situation, though?
What I can do, let me tell you that depending on the different cultures and companies,
That's right.
Yeah. That are highly engaged, and they have the inclusion and the diversity programs into part of the strategy. But it happens in companies like the one we are used to work, Procter & Gamble, these blue chip multinational corporations. But what about all other companies? Because this is not only 400 to 500 world. This is a world with multiple industries, multiple companies, but we have to build in those mega trends. We have mega trends that we want to capitalize. What is the recommendation for the companies that are not envisioning this already, but are part of the mega trend?
The basic question that Roberto, that any company CEO or business owner has to always think about is, in order to attract and retain top talent to work for you or stay with you, it is very important to have a clear purpose of the company. And there's a lot of communication that need to be done. It becomes a culture of the company. And the leader has to be visible when they talk about the purpose and culture of the company. At the same time, we are headhunters. We also know purpose is fine, culture is good, but it has to have this competitive total rewards. If the total rewards are not there, they will not make the jump. And also as a company, the culture of able to promote continuous learning. And today with the work from home, the so-called workplace flexibility are very important. Because a lot of women or even men really want to have some flexibility on flexi hours or flexi days to work with. And at the same time, the team that you already have, the people around. So those are the 5 factors we call those, the total package is really the total employee value proposition that we always have to work on those 5 things. What is the purpose of the business? What is your culture? What is the total rewards? How do you promote continuous learning and the workforce flexibility and build up the team with shared goals? Laurie?
One of our colleagues from Toronto, Nance McLeod, she leads the coaching in Toronto. She has a huge, good team there. And she's saying, exactly what my answer is too. I agree with her 100%. We have to learn things, but really the challenge is we have to unlearn. We have to unlearn so many ideas. We have to address our unconscious bias. We have to address all of our assumptions about the world. And that is the job of us individually. There's no company that's going to put your package together for you, I'm coaching some of our emerging leaders in Cornerstone right now, and I'm saying to them, what are the influences in your life? Are you only listening to what happens in your small pod? Are you aware of what's going on in India? Do you know what's going on in Sweden? Do you have any interest in the newspapers outside of your country? What do you read about? And so, it's taking care of our mentality, taking care of our view of the world, and to not shadow ourselves and box ourselves in, and then we become inaccessible to our clients. And they're the ones that are waking us up as companies. They're saying, what you did for us, we don't need it anymore, And so that is putting the shiver right through a company. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And if you turn around and make all those changes, and you don't even consider the people that are doing the work for you, how are they going to do it? What is going to be done? And who's going to support them? And are those people trained? These are all of the issues swirling around in the world right now, and really on the shoulders of our CEOs who need our support, more than ever need our support.
Roberto, if you don't mind me adding, from perspective from the US in terms of the Latino population. The Latino population in the US, more and more companies are realizing how much of a driving force it is. It is a segment that has 2.3 trillion in purchasing power, more purchasing power compared to the GDP of India, growing really fast. I think that will, and companies now are interested in ethnic diversity after George Floyd here in the US. Yes. So I think there will be more opportunities for Latinos and also more opportunities for people in Latin America to link with Latinos in the US for opportunities too.
One thing I wanted to add to that, you know, coaching is expanding like crazy. And it used to be that about 80% of the coaching took place in the US. You know, we have our largest team is in the US. In South America, coaching has grown in 2019 by 189% increase in coaching. And that's the International Coaching Federation's numbers. So there's an explosion, and I fully agree with you. You know that we are ignoring whole continents in our vision of how we are going to be successful in the world. You know.
Right, that's very insightful, and Graciela as well, very insightful. Even I'm one of the result of that. I'm a Colombian living in Dallas, working for a British company responsible for a continent. I'm the product of the whole mega trend right now. So my last question is going more into the leadership, because across the whole conversation, leadership is key. And the skills and the way the CEOs and the emerging leaders, not only the CEO, the emerging leaders take possession of the challenges. So in this post-COVID world, that changed the DNA of the whole workplace ecosystem in many ways. You know, our leaders must change as well to lead effectively. So we talk about reskilling, trying to feed another industry. No, but the leader has to reskill as well, navigate this new normal. Okay. So,
Roberto, I just also wanted to remind everybody that we are very close to time, so yes. We got to wrap up things quickly.
We are going to
bring us home now. Go ahead.
My last question is, to the point, what leadership skills, traits, and approaches are going to be most critical in the new normal? And what are the actionable steps you recommend to the audience on the talent management and coaches' perspectives, just to wrap up the whole panel discussion?
My summary would be this executive today would need to understand what needs to be done and act on it very quickly with a clear process. So because the CEO that still survive has to be able to be fast on actions. So this would be my summary. Laurie?
Well, I think we've said so many things about leadership, and I think we've put a huge focus on leadership. And it is the CEO who begins the story, and the middle management and the lower management and all of the employees. There isn't a sector that can be ignored anymore, and it is an enormous responsibility. But at the same time, for those leaders who have those skills, who are that way, this is a massive opportunity for them. And so it's up to us. Who are we, really? Who are we as people?
Oh, thank you so much. So Ranu, you can take from here.
Yes, thank you very much. I think we are on the hour, so I'm not going to take long to wrap up. I just want to say thank you so very much, Simon and Laurie, for accepting our invitation to be part of this conversation, and also to my fellow moderators, Roberto and Graciela. And also wanted to mention Gonzalo and give a shout out to Gonzalo Dor, who's the head of Cornerstone Mexico, and Diego Cubas, who's the head of Cornerstone Peru. Both are ex-P&G, for bringing this opportunity for us. And this is our third webinar in our In Dialogue series. The first one was on unconscious bias, the second one on gender diversity, and this one on the future of talent post-pandemic. So very timely. And we are very, very grateful for your insights and for all the participants for being on here. Just as a closing thought, I wanted to say that, so if we think about it, after World Wars I and II, this is probably the most disruptive event that has happened. And, this is a common adversity we face, right? So first time we're not pitted against each other, we have a common enemy, the virus. So let's take this opportunity to stand together, come together against this adversity. And, as a closing thought, I wanted to just mention that let's take a pledge to be strong together. So on that note, I'm going to close. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining and being part of this journey with us.
Privilege. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.